This is Chapter 3, Section 1, Indo-Europeans, and it is one of the shorter sections, but still crucial to know. The vocabulary for this section is Indo-Europeans, steppes or steeps, I've heard it pronounced both ways, Caucasus Mountains, Hittites, Anatolia, Aryans, Vedas, Brahmin, caste, and Mahabharata. The Indo-Europeans were a group of nomadic people. It appears that they came from the dry grasslands or steppes of the Caucasus Mountains. On the map you can find the Caucasus Mountains between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. This same map will be appearing on the chapter test. So make sure you know the Indo-Europeans are all of the groups represented, that they break down into those individual groups, that the steppes are the dry grasslands, and that the Caucasus Mountains are the mountains that were the origin for the Indo-Europeans and located between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Probably the biggest contribution made by the Indo-Europeans is in the field of language. What you're seeing here is sort of a family tree of languages that developed out of the Indo-European. Referencing back to the map we had before, when they broke into those separate groups, each group over time altered the language in their area and their way to produce every language on this chart over time. Make sure when it comes time for quizzes and tests that you can name at least 3 of the languages that came out of Indo-European. One of the Indo-European groups were the Hittites. The Hittites took over an area called Anatolia, which is also sometimes called Asia Minor, and today is the country of Turkey. The Hittites created an empire, their capital at Hatassus. The picture here is ruins of their capital city of Hatassus. Eventually the Hittite Empire expands to everything in the purple. You'll notice the peninsula that the Hittite Empire is on, that is Anatolia, which was mentioned in the last slide. You will also notice they take over most of Mesopotamia, including Babylon, and they will come into conflict with Egypt. However, we are going to reserve that for later when we talk about Egypt again, because it's more interesting from the Egyptian side at that point than it is from the Hittite side. Some of the things that allowed the Hittites to expand their empire was improved chariots, much like the one pictured here, iron weapons, which was stronger than the bronze that other cultures were using, and adaptability. Unlike many people who would come in, conquer, and force the people they took over to change what they were doing, the Hittites came in, conquered, and then learned from the people that they had taken over, allowing themselves to become stronger in the long run. Meanwhile, a different group of Indo-Europeans, the Indo-Aryans, went into India. We mentioned in a previous section that India was not taken over very often in the ancient times due to their natural barriers. This is one of the few times where they get taken over. The Aryans themselves leave very little archaeological evidence other than their religious writing, which are known as the Vedas. Now, when we talked about the Harappans, one of the things that was commented on was some of their imagery seemed like the Hindu gods and goddesses. The current popular theory is that the Harappan religion, which we know very little of other than those images, merged with the Vedas to create Hinduism. Another thing that the Aryans established was what was called the caste system. This divided the people into 4 main categories, unfortunately based on skin color, which became known as Varnas, the term Varna meaning color. Later Portuguese explorers would refer to this as a caste system. The categories people were put in at the top were the Brahmins, the priest. You will definitely need to know that one when it comes test time. The rulers and warriors would come next. I'm afraid I cannot pronounce the name of that category. Then the peasants and traders, the laborers or workers, and then a 5th group that technically wasn't part of the caste system, the untouchables. They are a 5th caste in that they are outcast from the other groups. They are considered beneath the 4 that are normally accepted as part of the society. Much like the Epic of Gilgamesh that was discussed in the Mesopotamian section, the epic known as the Mahabharata told the story of the Aryan kings as they tried to take control of India. And it mixes what's presumed to be some factual information along with mythological information. One part is called the Bhagavad Gita. It tells of a warrior prince preparing for war and of his chariot driver who he doesn't realize is the god Krishna disguised as a human. Throughout this tale, as the prince is taking over villages and expanding his control, the chariot driver, who is this god in disguise, is offering him advice on how to be a good ruler and basically serving as his conscience. In one scene, in order to serve as a distraction, the chariot driver Krishna dances on the heads of the serpent. In this case, it's much like the Hercules story of the Hydra, if you are familiar with that. And he dances upon the heads so quickly that they tie themselves in knots at the neck. On the right, you will see a picture at the top of a tapestry, an ancient tapestry depicting the dancing on the head of the serpent, and below it a modern painting rendering of the same story.